The annual Thompson family gathering was in full swing at my parents' estate, the usual parade of designer clothes and luxury cars dotting the circular driveway. I pulled up in my used Toyota Corolla, deliberately parking between my brother James's Ferrari and my sister Victoria's Bentley. "Look who finally made it," James called out as I entered the mansion's grand foyer. "Still driving that rust bucket, Sarah?" I smiled, smoothing my simple black dress, another deliberate choice. "It gets me where I need to go." "You know," Victoria chimed in, champagne glass in hand, "Bradley's dealership could get you something more appropriate for a Thompson. If you could afford the payments, that is." The siblings shared a knowing laugh. Poor Sarah, the family disappointment, who'd turned down a position in Thompson Industries to start her own tech company. 5 years of them mocking my humble lifestyle while I poured every penny into research and development. If they only knew. "Sarah, darling." Mom swooped in, air-kissing my cheeks. "We were just discussing the family portfolio. James's division posted record profits this quarter." "That's wonderful," I replied, checking my watch. "Right on schedule." "It must be hard," James continued, enjoying his favorite sport, needling his little sister. "Watching us succeed while you're still, what do you call it? Building your startup?" Dad joined the group, scotch in hand. "You know, Princess, that offer to join the family business still stands. No shame in admitting you need help." I checked my phone, reading the message that had just arrived. "Package secured. All systems go." "Actually," I said, "I have some news about my company." "Finally selling that little app of yours?" Victoria smirked. "Not exactly." I moved toward the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the back lawn. "But I did make a significant acquisition today." James laughed. "What acquisition? You can't even afford a new car." The distant sound of helicopter blades cut through the party chatter. "That would be my ride," I said calmly, watching their confused expressions. "And about that acquisition?" I turned to my father. "Congratulations on selling Thompson Technologies. The board approved my purchase offer an hour ago." The helicopter, my helicopter emblazoned with my company's logo, appeared over the trees, descending toward the manicured lawn. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor as she fainted dead away. "This is a joke," James sputtered, his face reddening. "Thompson Technologies is worth billions. You can't possibly." $8.7 billion to be exact, I interrupted, pulling up the confirmation email on my phone. "Though I got it for $7.2 billion. The board was quite eager to sell after seeing my company's latest innovations." Victoria grabbed Dad's arm. "Daddy, what is she talking about?" Our father had gone pale, finally recognizing the logo on the helicopter's tail. "Quantum Apex," he whispered. You're Quantum Apex?" The mysterious tech company that had revolutionized quantum computing. The startup that had Wall Street in a frenzy. The corporation valued at $50 billion that had maintained its CEO's anonymity until now. "Surprised?" I asked, watching the helicopter land. All those years of living poorly, I was investing everything into research. Building something bigger than Thompson Technologies could ever be. Mom stirred from her faint, helped up by concerned relatives. "Sarah, what have you done?" "What you all said I couldn't do," I replied. "Remember when you called my ideas unrealistic? When James said quantum computing was a dead end? When Dad refused to let me head the tech division because I lacked experience?" The party had gone silent, all eyes moving between me and the sleek black helicopter on the lawn. "That's Harrison Chin," someone gasped, recognizing the man emerging from the helicopter. "The Silicon Valley venture capitalist." "Paisu," I corrected. "He believed in my vision when my own family wouldn't." Along with the team of scientists and engineers who saw what Thompson Technologies missed, the future. James lunged forward, grabbing my arm. "You betrayed the family. Buying our company behind our backs." "No," I cut him off, pulling free. "I beat you at your own game. Fair and square. The same way you said I never could." Dad seemed to age years in minutes. "Why didn't you tell us? All this time. Would you have believed me?" I asked. "Or would you have tried to take control, like you did with every other opportunity one ever had?" Harrison entered through the patio doors, tablet in hand. "Sarah, the press is waiting. They want a statement about the acquisition." Tell them the truth, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. Tell them Quantum Apex's CEO just bought her family's company. Tell them the Thompson girl they said would never succeed just became their boss. Victoria collapsed into a chair. All those times we teased you about your car. I could have bought a fleet of Ferraris, I smiled. But I had better things to do with my money. Like building the largest quantum computing company in the world. Mom stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Sweetheart, we never meant to. To what? Doubt me? Dismiss me? Push me aside for James and Victoria? I checked my watch again. The press conference starts in an hour. I need to go. In that. James gestured to my simple dress. I walked to the helicopter, then turned back one last time. No, dear brother. In my other outfit. I nodded to Harrison, who handed me a garment bag. Inside was a designer suit that cost more than James's Ferrari. By the way, I added, that rust bucket in the driveway? Keep it as a souvenir. A reminder of how badly you all misjudged me. The helicopter blades began to spin as Harrison helped me aboard. Through the window, I could see my family's shocked faces, their perfect world turned upside down by the sister they'd underestimated. One more thing, I called out over the roar of the engines. James, Victoria, check your emails. The board's restructuring starts tomorrow. Hope you're ready to work for your little sister. As we lifted off, Harrison handed me the acquisition papers. Congratulations, CEO Thompson. Or should I say boss? I smiled, watching my family become tiny figures below. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's showing up in a helicopter when they think you can't afford a car. The press conference was a media frenzy. Every major network carried the story. Quantum Apexo revealed. Sarah Thompson acquires family business IN $7.2 billion deal. I stood at the podium in my power suit, finally stepping into the spotlight I'd avoided for 5 years. The questions came rapid fire. Miss Thompson, why keep your identity secret all this time? Was this acquisition personal or strategic? How does your family feel about working for you now? Let me be clear, I addressed the packed room. Quantum Apex's acquisition of Thompson Technologies isn't about family drama. It's about innovation. While Thompson Tech focused on outdated systems, we were revolutionizing quantum computing. The screens behind me displayed our latest achievements, breakthrough technologies that had made me a fortune and changed the industry forever. Sarah. My father's voice boomed from the back of the room. He'd followed us to the press conference, still wearing his party clothes. This is our legacy you're playing with. The reporters spun around, cameras flashing. They couldn't have scripted better drama. Your legacy? I replied, my voice carrying through the microphone. Or your control? I clicked to the next slide, showing Thompson Technologies' declining market share. Under your leadership, our family company fell behind. While you were busy grooming James to take over, I was building the future. Harrison stepped forward with more charts. Thompson Technologies has lost 40% of its market value in the past 3 years. Meanwhile, Quantum Apex's value has increased tenfold. Because you stole our research. James shouted, appearing beside Dad. I laughed, the sound echoing through the speakers. Stole? Every patent, every innovation, every breakthrough is original Quantum Apex technology. The same technology you rejected when I presented it to the Thompson board 5 years ago. The reporters were scribbling frantically, eating up every word. Remember that board meeting, James? When you said quantum computing was, and I quote, a waste of resources. I pulled up the minutes from that very meeting. When Dad said I was too inexperienced to lead the tech division, Victoria appeared next, designer dress wrinkled from rushing over. Sarah, please. We can talk about this privately. Like we talked about my ideas privately? Or like how you privately convinced Dad to pass me over for promotion 3 times. I turned back to the reporters. Let me show you something interesting. The screens displayed a series of emails correspondence between my siblings and father, systematically working to undermine my position in the company. While my family was plotting to keep me away from any real power at Thompson Technologies, I was building something they couldn't control. I gestured to Harrison, who unveiled our latest quantum processor. This single chip has more computing power than all of Thompson Tech's mainframes combined. Dad stepped forward, his face a mix of anger and desperation. You'll destroy everything we built. No, Dad. I'm saving it. Quantum Apex isn't just acquiring Thomson Technologies, we're revolutionizing it. Those who can adapt will stay. Those who can't, I met his eyes directly, will be thanked for their service. The room erupted with questions, cameras flashing like strobe lights. But I wasn't done. Starting tomorrow, Thomson Technologies will be rebranded as Quantum Thomson, a subsidiary of Quantum Apex. I've already appointed a new board of directors, experts in quantum computing, AI, and digital innovation. You can't do this. James protested. Surely I can. And I did. I pulled up the final slide, the new company structure. As for the Thomson family's involvement, Dad, James, Victoria, you're welcome to stay on. In entry-level positions. It's time you learned how real innovation works. Mom burst into the room, tears streaming down her face. Sarah, mi amor, please. We're family. Yes, we are. Which is why I'm giving you all jobs instead of golden parachutes. Consider it my way of teaching the family business. Harrison approached with another tablet. The market's responding. Quantum Apex stock is up 15% since the announcement. I smiled, thinking of my old Toyota Corolla and all the years of pretending to struggle. Speaking of stock, I should mention one more thing. I turned to my family. Remember all those times you teased me about being poor? About not being able to afford a nice car? They nodded numbly. I own 70% of Quantum Apex's shares. As of today's market close, that makes me worth approximately $35 billion. I paused, letting that sink in. Which means I could buy and sell Thomson Technologies 10 times over. With cash. The reporters were going wild, but I only cared about 4 faces in the crowd, my family, finally realizing just how badly they'd underestimated their poor little Sarah. Now, I concluded, who's ready to learn how real business is done? Your orientation starts tomorrow. Don't be late, your little sister runs a tight ship. The next morning, the Thomson family arrived at Quantum Apex headquarters, a gleaming 70-story tower that made Thomson Technologies building look like a corner store. They stood in the lobby, still processing the events of the past 24 hours. Good morning, Mr. Thomson, Miss Thomson, the security guard greeted them. Your visitor badges are ready. Please wait for your escort. Visitor badges? James sputtered. Do you know who we are? Of course, sir. You're the CEO's family. Here for new employee orientation. I watched the scene unfold on the security feeds from my penthouse office. The same office they told me I'd never earn. Harrison stood beside me reviewing the morning reports. The market's loving this, he said. Stock's up another 20%. Your rags to riches story is trending worldwide. Time to greet the new employees, I smiled, straightening my Armani suit. How's Dad handling the reorganization news? Not well. He's been calling board members all night trying to block the merger. Nobody's taking his calls. The elevator ride to the lobby felt like a victory lap. 5 years of secrecy, of letting them think I was struggling, had led to this moment. The doors opened to reveal my family, looking lost in the vast ultramodern space. Welcome to Quantum Apex, I announced, striding toward them. Or should I say your new workplace? This is ridiculous, Victoria protested. We have decades of experience running Thomson Technologies. Running it into the ground, I corrected, pulling up company statistics on the lobby's massive digital wall. Your experience cost shareholders billions while you focused on maintaining family control instead of innovating. Mom stepped forward, trying a different approach. Mija, we're proud of what you've built, but surely we can find a compromise? Like the compromises you offered me? I led them to the elevator, accessing the secure executive floor with my biometric scan. Let me show you something. The doors opened to reveal a museum-like space displaying Quantum Apex's achievements. While you were laughing at my failed startup, I was revolutionizing quantum computing. Every patent, every breakthrough, every innovation that made this company worth $50 billion, they all came from the daughter you said would never succeed. But the secrecy, Dad finally spoke. Why hide who you were? Because you would have tried to take control just like you're trying now. I pulled up his phone records on a nearby screen. Calling board members at midnight? Really, Dad? James paled. You monitor our phones? I monitor everything. How do you think I stayed ahead of you all these years? I led them to a conference room where Harrison waited with orientation packets. Now about your new positions. You can't seriously expect us to start at the bottom, Victoria interrupted. Actually, I can. And I'll tell you why. I clicked through slides showing their past performance. James, your division lost $300 million on failed projects. Victoria, your marketing strategies were outdated 5 years ago. And Dad. I paused, meeting his eyes. You rejected quantum computing as science fiction when I proposed it. We made mistakes, Dad admitted. But we're still Thompsons. Yes, you are. Which is exactly why you need to earn your positions this time. I distributed employee handbooks. Welcome to Quantum Apex's Advanced Technology Training Program. 6 months of intensive learning, starting with basic quantum computing principles. 6 months. James looked horrified. Of training. Consider it a crash course in humility. The same humility you never showed me. I pulled up the org chart. You'll report to people half your age who actually understand modern technology. You'll learn what real innovation looks like. And if we refuse? Dad challenged. Then you can watch from the sidelines as I transform Thomson Technologies into something you never had the vision to build. I smiled. Your choice. Mom sank into a chair, finally understanding the magnitude of the situation. All those years living in that small apartment, driving that old car. I was investing every penny in research and development. Building this. I gestured to the empire around us. While you were all showing off your luxury cars and vacation homes, I was creating the future. Harrison entered with more papers. The press is requesting a family photo. They're calling it the Thompson dynasty's new queen. What do you say, family? I asked. Ready to show the world what it looks like when the underestimated daughter becomes the boss? They looked at each other, then at the orientation packets, then at the empire I'd built while they weren't watching. One condition, Dad said quietly. We want to understand. Really understand what you've built here. That's all I ever wanted, I replied. For you to see what I could do if given the chance. I turned to Harrison. Schedule them for the advanced coding class. Let's see if the Thompsons can learn some new tricks. As my family filed out to begin their orientation, I caught my reflection in the window. Sarah Thompson, the poor little sister who bought her family's company with the fortune they never knew she had. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's teaching them exactly why they were wrong in the first place. Oh, and James. I called after them. About that Ferrari in Dad's driveway? Move it. My helicopter needs somewhere to land.
The email from Quantum Dynamics sat in my inbox like a time bomb. 5 years after they rejected me, after Richard Bennett had personally told me I wasn't qualified enough to work for them, they were practically begging for a meeting. Subject: urgent meeting request. Patent acquisition from Richard Bennett, CEO, Quantum Dynamics to Dr. Sarah Anderson, Anderson Innovations. Dr. Anderson, your breakthrough in quantum computing architecture has caught our attention. Quantum Dynamics would like to discuss acquiring the patent rights. Given the revolutionary nature of your invention, we're prepared to offer substantial compensation. Please contact my office to arrange a meeting at your earliest convenience. Regards, Richard Bennett, CEO, Quantum Dynamics. I leaned back in my chair, remembering that day in Bennett's office. I'd been fresh out of MIT, my doctoral thesis on quantum computing still warm from the printer. Quantum Dynamics had been my dream company since undergrad. The industry leader in quantum computing development, the place where every serious researcher wanted to work. Your academic record is adequate, Bennett had said, barely glancing at my CV. But we're looking for people with more practical experience. Perhaps try a smaller company, something more suitable for your level. The way he'd said suitable made it clear what he really meant. I was a woman in a male-dominated field, with ideas that challenged their traditional approaches. They wanted safe, conventional researchers who wouldn't rock the boat. Now, 5 years later, my inadequate ideas had revolutionized the entire industry. My quantum architecture design had solved the decoherence problem that had plagued quantum computing for decades. The patent was worth billions, and every major tech company was trying to get their hands on it, including Quantum Dynamics, who were watching their market share disappear as competitors lined up to license my technology. I opened my laptop and began typing a response. Mr. Bennett, thank you for your interest in my patent. I would be happy to discuss potential acquisition terms. However, I insist that all negotiations be conducted through my legal team until the final stages. I will have my assistant arrange a meeting for next week. Best regards, Dr. Sarah Anderson. I smiled as I hit send. Bennett had no idea who I really was. The name was the same, but he'd never connected Dr. Sarah Anderson, the revolutionary inventor he was desperate to meet, with the young woman he'd dismissed 5 years ago. My assistant, Maria, knocked on my office door. The lawyers are here for the pre-meeting briefing. I nodded, gathering my thoughts. The last 5 years hadn't been easy, but they'd been worth it. After Quantum Dynamics rejected me, I'd spent 6 months working out of my garage, surviving on ramen noodles and determination. Every penny of my savings went into research equipment. Other companies had shown interest in my initial designs, but they all wanted to water down my ideas, make them safer and more conventional. So I decided to do it myself. I took out loans, maxed out credit cards, and eventually found a few small investors who believed in my vision. The breakthrough came after 2 years of grueling work. I'd been staring at test results at 3 a.m. when I realized the solution wasn't in making quantum bits more stable. It was in creating an entirely new architecture that worked with their inherent instability. The prototype worked better than anyone had expected. Suddenly, those same companies that had rejected my ideas were calling nonstop. But I didn't license the patent right away. Instead, I started Anderson Innovations, developing practical applications for my technology. Now, 3 years later, we had working quantum computers that were revolutionizing everything from medical research to climate modeling. Our machines were smaller, more efficient, and more powerful than anything else on the market. And Quantum Dynamics was falling behind. The legal team was waiting in the conference room, 3 top patent attorneys and our chief negotiator. They'd helped me navigate the complex world of tech patents and corporate negotiations, protecting my interests when bigger companies tried to bully us. Dr. Anderson, James Chen, our lead attorney, greeted me. We've reviewed Quantum Dynamics' preliminary offer. They're starting at $2 billion for exclusive rights to the patent. I sat down at the head of the table. And what's the patent actually worth? Conservative estimates put it at $5 billion minimum. But that's just for the patent itself. If we factor in the practical applications and future developments, it's worth more than their entire company. Sarah Martinez, our negotiator, finished, which is why they're so desperate to acquire it. Their stock has dropped 30% since we announced our latest breakthrough. I nodded, thinking about the poetic justice of it all. The company that had deemed me unqualified was now facing obsolescence because of my innovations. What's our strategy? I asked. James spread out several documents. We string them along. Make them think they have a chance at an exclusive license. Meanwhile, we continue negotiations with their competitors. The longer this plays out, the more desperate they'll become. And Bennett? Will he be at the preliminary meetings? Sarah checked her notes. No. They're sending their head of R&D and legal team for the initial discussions. Bennett only gets involved in the final stages of major acquisitions. Perfect. I wanted to save my revelation for just the right moment. One more thing, I added. Make sure all meetings are recorded. I want documentation of every word. The next week passed in a blur of preparations. Quantum Dynamics representatives were suitably impressed by our headquarters, a modern glass and steel building in Silicon Valley, a far cry from my garage workshop days. They made all the right noises about synergy and mutual benefit, while their eyes betrayed their desperation. I watched the negotiations via closed-circuit TV from my office, letting our team handle the details. The Quantum Dynamics people kept dropping hints about wanting to meet the brilliant Dr. Anderson, but my team had strict instructions about maintaining my privacy. Dr. Anderson prefers to focus on research, they would say. She'll join us when the serious negotiations begin. Finally, after 2 weeks of preliminary discussions, Bennett himself requested a meeting. His email was less confident this time. Dr. Anderson, our teams have made excellent progress, but I believe it's time for us to meet in person. Your innovations could be transformative for Quantum Dynamics. I would appreciate the opportunity to discuss our vision for the future directly. Regards, Richard Bennett. I read the email several times, savoring each word. Transformative was an understatement. My technology wouldn't transform quantum dynamics. It would save them from becoming obsolete. I drafted my response carefully. Mr. Bennett, I agree it's time we met. Shall we say next Thursday, 2 p.m., at your office? I believe I remember the way. Best regards, Dr. Sarah Anderson. I sent the email, knowing the last line would puzzle him. Let him wonder about its meaning. In 1 week, he would understand exactly what he had missed 5 years ago. The weekend before the meeting, I visited my old garage workshop. I kept it as a reminder of where I'd started, though now it was cleaned up and served as a private lab for my personal projects. The desk where I'd had my breakthrough was still there, its surface scored from countless coffee cups and late-night frustrations. Pinned to the wall was my rejection letter from Quantum Dynamics, framed not out of bitterness, but as motivation. Next to it hung the front page of Technology Today with the headline, Anderson Innovations Revolutionizes Quantum Computing. As I stood there, surrounded by the memories of my struggle, I thought about all the other brilliant minds who had been dismissed, underestimated, or ignored because they didn't fit someone's preconception of what a genius should look like. This wasn't just about personal vindication anymore. It was about changing the way the industry worked, about proving that innovation could come from anywhere, from anyone. Thursday was approaching, and with it my chance to show Richard Bennett exactly what he had missed. But first, I had to prepare for a meeting that would change everything, not just for me, but for the future of quantum computing itself. Thursday morning dawned clear and bright. I stood in front of my closet, considering my options. Finally, I chose the exact same outfit I'd worn to my interview 5 years ago. A charcoal gray suit and blue silk blouse. But this time, I added my doctoral hood and the gold pin I'd received for winning the National Science Foundation's Innovation Award. "The car's ready, Dr. Anderson," Maria announced through the intercom. "And the legal team has arrived at Quantum Dynamics for the preliminary meeting." I checked my reflection one last time. Gone was the nervous young graduate with something to prove. In her place stood a successful CEO who had already proven everything. Quantum Dynamics headquarters hadn't changed much, still all glass and chrome, designed to impress. The security guard at the desk did a double take when I gave my name. "Dr. Sarah Anderson, they're expecting you in the main conference room." He paused. "Have you been here before?" "Once," I smiled. "A long time ago." The elevator ride to the executive floor brought back memories. I'd been so hopeful that day, clutching my portfolio of ideas that would later revolutionize the industry. Now those same ideas were worth billions. Bennett's assistant jumped up when I entered the waiting area. "Dr. Anderson, Mr. Bennett is just finishing up a call. Can I get you anything while you wait?" "No, thank you." I sat down, knowing that it was the same chair I'd waited in 5 years ago. Back then, I'd waited 45 minutes while Bennett deliberately made me sweat. Today, I barely sat down when his office door flew open. "Dr. Anderson, please come in." Bennett's voice boomed with practiced enthusiasm. He looked older than I remembered. More gray in his hair, more lines around his eyes. The stress of watching his company fall behind must be taking its toll. I walked into his office, taking in the familiar details. The same pretentious modern art on the walls. The same oversized desk designed to make visitors feel small. The same view of Silicon Valley sprawling below. Bennett extended his hand, then froze as recognition slowly dawned on his face. "You," his confident smile faltered. "You're Sarah Anderson." I finished for him, keeping my voice pleasant. "We met 5 years ago, right here in this office. Though back then, you said I wasn't qualified enough for quantum dynamics." He sank into his chair, his face ashen. That is, things were different then. Yes, they were. I sat down across from him, smoothing my skirt. "But let's not dwell on the past. You wanted to discuss acquiring my patent." He tried to recover his composure, shuffling papers on his desk. Yes, of course. Our initial offer is inadequate." I cut him off. $2 billion for a technology that's already generated $5 billion in licensing fees? That's not even counting the practical applications we're developing at Anderson Innovations. "We could revise the offer," he said quickly. "Perhaps discuss a partnership arrangement." I pulled out my tablet and placed it on his desk. "Actually, I have a counter-proposal, one that might interest you more than our patent." He leaned forward eagerly. "Yes." Anderson Innovations is preparing to launch a new quantum processor next month. It's 50 times faster than anything currently on the market, including your best machines. I pause, letting that sink in. We're also developing quantum-based solutions for artificial intelligence, cryptography, and medical imaging. That's impressive, he managed. The patent you want to buy, that was just the beginning. We have a dozen more breakthrough technologies in development. I met his eyes steadily. Quantum dynamics is falling behind, Mr. Bennett. Your stock price reflects that. You need more than just our current patent, you need our innovation pipeline. He wiped his forehead with a monogrammed handkerchief. What exactly are you proposing? A merger. I slid a document across his desk, but not the kind you're thinking of. Anderson Innovations would acquire Quantum Dynamics. You become a division of our company. The silence that followed was deafening. Bennett stared at the document like it might bite him. This is impossible, he finally sputtered. We're still one of the largest quantum computing companies in the world. For now, I agreed. But in 6 months, a year, your market share is dropping weekly. Your best researchers are leaving for companies that have licensed our technology. You're facing obsolescence, Mr. Bennett. He slumped in his chair, the truth of my words hitting home. And if we refuse, then we'll continue licensing our technology to your competitors. We'll keep developing new innovations, and quantum dynamics will keep falling further behind. I stood up. You have 24 hours to make a decision. As I turned to leave, he called out, Wait, why are you doing this? Is it because of what happened 5 years ago? I paused at the door. No, Mr. Bennett, this isn't about revenge. It's about the future of quantum computing. Your company has brilliant researchers, excellent facilities, and decades of experience. But you're held back by old thinking, by leaders who can't recognize innovation when it's sitting right in front of them. I walked out, leaving him with the merger proposal and his thoughts. The next day, Quantum Dynamics' board of directors voted to accept our offer. The business media called it the tech acquisition of the decade. Quantum Computing David acquires Goliath, read the headlines. 3 months later, I stood in Quantum Dynamics' main research lab, now part of Anderson Innovations, addressing the combined research teams. The old barriers between departments are gone, I announced. No more traditional hierarchies, no more dismissing ideas because they seem too radical. From now on, we evaluate proposals based on merit, not on who presents them. In the back of the room, I spotted a young researcher, fresh out of graduate school, clutching a folder of ideas. She reminded me of myself 5 years ago. After the meeting, I stopped by her desk. Tell me about your research, I said. Her eyes lit up as she explained her theories about quantum entanglement. Her ideas were unconventional, challenging accepted principles, just the kind of thinking quantum dynamics would have rejected in the past. Have you shown these to anyone? I asked. She shook her head. I was told they were too experimental, that I should focus on more established approaches. I thought about my old garage workshop, about late nights spent proving everyone wrong. Would you like to lead a research team exploring these theories? Her jaw dropped. Really? But I'm not. I just started. Sometimes, I said, smiling, the best innovations come from people who haven't been told what's impossible. Later that day, I visited Bennett's old office, my office now. The pretentious art was gone, replaced by whiteboards covered in equations. The oversized desk had been donated, making room for a collaborative workspace where researchers could share ideas. On one wall hung 2 framed documents, my old rejection letter from Quantum Dynamics and the signed merger agreement that had transformed both companies. Between them was a new plaque with Anderson Innovations' motto, Innovation knows no boundaries. My assistant buzzed through. Dr. Mitchell from MIT is on the line. She says she has a student you might want to meet, someone with unusual ideas about quantum gravity. I smiled, thinking about cycles and second chances. Set up the meeting. And Maria, make sure they know we're always interested in unconventional thinking. The quantum computing industry had changed forever, not just because of our technology, but because we'd proven that true innovation can come from anywhere, even from someone who wasn't qualified enough. And somewhere in Silicon Valley, in a cleaned-up garage workshop, a framed magazine cover still hangs on the wall, reminding me that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about changing the game entirely. The silence in the medical board hearing room was deafening as Dr. Rebecca Chen, my own sister, finished her presentation. On the projector behind her, slides full of carefully selected data painted a damning picture of my research. As you can see, she concluded, her voice carrying the authority of Johns Hopkins' youngest department chair, Dr. Sarah Chen's methodology was fundamentally flawed. Her conclusions about the experimental treatment cannot be trusted. In my professional opinion, she is unfit to continue practicing medicine. I sat perfectly still, my hands clasped tightly in my lap to hide their trembling. 15 years of research, countless late nights in the lab, all my work on developing new treatments for rare genetic disorders, destroyed in a 40-minute presentation. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen, and at 35, I was watching my sister systematically dismantle my career. The same sister who had once shared my dreams of changing lives through medical research. The same sister who had worked alongside me in our parents' small medical practice growing up. The same sister who had always been the brilliant one. Dr. Maxwell, head of the medical board, cleared his throat. Dr. Sarah Chen, do you have any response to these allegations? I looked up at the board numbers, people I'd known and respected for years. Their faces were carefully neutral, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. Rebecca's reputation preceded her, the prodigy, the innovator, the one who had revolutionized genetic research methods. The data presented, I began, my voice steady despite everything, doesn't tell the complete story. If you look at the full data set, which mysteriously can't be found, Rebecca interrupted smoothly. How convenient. I felt my cheeks burn. The original data from my early trials had indeed gone missing from the hospital servers 2 weeks ago, right around the time Rebecca had started her investigation into my research. I have backup copies in my lab, I said. I can provide. The board has seen enough, Dr. Maxwell interjected. We'll take a brief recess to discuss these findings. As the board members filed out, I caught Rebecca's eye. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Satisfaction? Regret? But then it was gone, replaced by her usual mask of professional detachment. I walked out of the hearing room in a daze, barely registering the sympathetic looks from colleagues in the hallway. My phone buzzed. A text from Dr. James Harrison, my mentor, and the only person who had stood by me through this nightmare. My office, now. James was waiting when I arrived, his normally cheerful face grave. At 65, he had seen his share of academic politics and professional rivalries, but even he seemed shaken by what had just happened. Why? He asked simply as I sank into the chair across from his desk. I shook my head, fighting back tears. Because she could. Because she's always had to prove she's better, smarter, more successful. This isn't about sibling rivalry, Sarah. This is career assassination. What really happened with that data? I leaned forward, lowering my voice though we were alone. 2 weeks ago, I made a breakthrough. The treatment was showing unprecedented success rates in the latest trials. I was double-checking everything before submitting for peer review when Rebecca started her investigation, James finished. Exactly. And suddenly my access to the hospital servers was temporarily suspended for review. When I finally got back in, key files were corrupted or missing. James' eyes narrowed. She wouldn't she? I laughed bitterly. Rebecca has spent her entire career being the star, the genius, the one who makes headlines. And now her older sister might have stumbled onto something bigger than anything she's done. But your backup data is in my private lab notes, which is why I need you to do something for me. I pulled a key from my pocket and slid it across his desk. In my lab, bottom drawer of my desk, there's a locked box. When they suspend my privileges, I need you to get it for me. He took the key, his expression worried. Sarah, what are you planning? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. The board was reconvening. The decision was exactly what I expected. My hospital privileges were suspended pending a full investigation. My research grants were frozen. My reputation, the thing I'd spent my entire career building, was in tatters. Rebecca didn't even look at me as she packed up her presentation materials. She had done what she came to do. That night, sitting in my home office surrounded by years of research notes, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not just for my career, but for the patients who had been counting on my work. For the children with rare genetic disorders who had been part of my trials, who had shown such promising responses to the treatment. Then I saw it. In my earliest lab notebook, tucked between detailed trial notes and careful observations, was something I had forgotten about. A strange anomaly in one of the control groups, something that hadn't fit the pattern I was looking for at the time, so I had set it aside for later investigation. With trembling hands, I pulled out more notebooks, cross-referencing data points and patient responses. The pattern began to emerge, subtle at first, then unmistakable. My phone rang, making me jump. It was James. "I got the box," he said without preamble. "Sarah, you need to see this. The original data. It shows more than just success rates for your intended treatment. There's something else happening with the control group." "I know," I whispered, staring at my notes. "I just found it in my old notebooks." "James, this could be bigger than anything we imagined. But I need your help." "What do you need?" I took a deep breath. "Access to a lab. Somewhere private, off the grid. And I need you to help me gather some people we can trust completely." There was a pause on the other end. "This is about more than clearing your name, isn't it?" "Much more." Rebecca thought she was destroying my research, but she actually helped me see something I missed. Something that could change everything. Over the next few weeks, while the hospital conducted its investigation and Rebecca basked in the acclaim of protecting medical integrity, I worked in secret. James had connections with a private research facility on the outskirts of the city, one that wasn't affiliated with any major hospital or university. Dr. Maria Santos, a brilliant immunologist who had once faced similar accusations of misconduct, later proven false, offered her expertise. Dr. Tom Chen, no relation, a genetic researcher who had worked with me on early trials, brought his experience with data analysis. Together, we began to unravel what my original notes had hinted at. The control group in my trials had shown an unexpected response, not to the treatment itself, but to something in the delivery mechanism, something that had implications far beyond rare genetic disorders. "This is incredible," Maria said one night, looking up from her microscope. "The cellular response, I've never seen anything like it. It's almost like the carrier molecule is triggering some kind of reset," Tom added, scrolling through data on his tablet. "Like it's teaching the cells to heal themselves." I nodded, trying to contain my excitement. And because it wasn't what we were looking for originally, we almost missed it. The question is, how do we prove it without access to the hospital's resources? "We already have proof," James said quietly. He had been studying my original lab notes, comparing them with our new findings. "It's all here, documented, dated, verified." "Sarah, do you realize what this means?" I did. It meant that not only was my original research valid, but I had accidentally stumbled onto something potentially revolutionary, something that could change the way we think about cellular regeneration and healing, something that would make Rebecca's accusations look not just wrong, but catastrophically short-sighted. But I had to be careful. One wrong move, one leaked piece of information, and it could all fall apart again. That's when I got the text from an unexpected source. Dr. Linda Zhao, Rebecca's research assistant. "Need to talk. It's about the missing data." I met Linda at a small coffee shop far from the hospital, choosing a quiet corner booth where we wouldn't be easily noticed. She looked nervous, constantly checking her phone. "Rebecca doesn't know I'm here," she said immediately, her voice barely above a whisper. "If she finds out." "Why are you taking this risk?" I asked, studying her carefully. Linda pulled out a USB drive, sliding it across the table. "Because what she did was wrong. I was there when she accessed your files. She didn't just review them, she deliberately corrupted key data points." And she hesitated, glancing around before continuing. "I think I know why." I waited, my heart pounding. 2 months ago, she received some preliminary results from her own genetic research. They were disappointing. Years of work, millions in funding, and the results showed her approach was fundamentally flawed. Then she heard about your breakthrough. The pieces started falling into place. Rebecca's sudden interest in my research, the timing of her investigation, the missing data. It wasn't just about professional rivalry, it was desperation. "I made copies," Linda continued, nodding toward the USB drive. "Of everything, both the original files and the corrupted versions. The timestamps will show exactly when and how they were altered." I picked up the drive, trying to keep my hand steady. "Why didn't you come forward during the hearing?" "Because it wouldn't have been enough," she said simply. "Rebecca's reputation, her influence. She would have found a way to discredit me. But now," she smiled slightly, "I hear you've made some interesting discoveries in your private research. News traveled fast in the scientific community, even when you tried to keep things quiet." I chose my next words carefully. "How much do you know?" "Enough to know that what you found could change everything. And enough to know that Rebecca will try to stop you again if she finds out." She was right. The cellular regeneration mechanism we discovered wasn't just a scientific breakthrough, it was a potential goldmine. Patents, research grants, pharmaceutical development, billions of dollars were at stake. Back at the private lab, I shared Linda's revelations with my team. Maria immediately began analyzing the recovered data, comparing it with our new findings. "This is perfect," she exclaimed after several hours. "The original trial data completely supports what we're seeing now. With this, we can prove both the validity of your initial research and the significance of the new discovery." "But we need to move fast," James cautioned. "Once we go public with this, Rebecca will try to claim she knew about the regenerative properties all along. That her investigation was aimed at protecting this discovery." "No, she won't," Tom said, looking up from his computer. "Because I just found something interesting in these timestamps. The data corruption wasn't just about erasing success rates. Specific genetic markers related to cellular regeneration were targeted. She was trying to hide any evidence that might lead someone else to discover what Sarah found." "She knew," I whispered. "She saw the same pattern I did, but she couldn't replicate it in her own research. So she tried to bury it completely." The next few days were a blur of activity. We prepared our findings for publication, documented everything meticulously, and filed preliminary patents. I also did something else, something that went against every instinct I had as a scientist and a sister. I called our parents. Mom and Dad had stayed out of the conflict between Rebecca and me, maintaining what they called professional neutrality. But they needed to know the truth before everything became public. They sat in my living room, looking uncomfortable as I laid out everything. Rebecca's sabotage, the recovered data, and most importantly, the breakthrough we'd made. "She was always so competitive," Mom said softly, staring at the evidence of data corruption. "But this?" Dad, a retired surgeon himself, was focused on the research findings. "This regenerative mechanism, you're certain about this?" I nodded. "We verified it through multiple trials. It's real, Dad, and it could help thousands of people." The next morning, everything changed. Our research was published simultaneously in 3 major medical journals. The hospital board received copies of all the evidence, including Linda's documentation of the data tampering. Rebecca's reaction was swift and furious. She called an emergency press conference, ready to discredit our findings. But she was too late. I stood at the back of the conference room as she approached the podium, watching her confident smile fade as she realized half the seats were empty. The reporters who did attend were already holding copies of our published research. "Dr. Chen," one of them called out, "how do you respond to allegations that you deliberately corrupted your sister's research data to hide evidence of cellular regeneration properties?" Rebecca's face went pale. That's not. "And is it true that your own research in this area failed to produce results, leading to your investigation of Dr. Sarah Chen's work?" She looked around desperately, but there was no escape. The truth was out, documented and verified by multiple sources. I didn't stay to watch her career unravel. I had more important things to do. 6 months later, our research had progressed beyond anything we'd initially imagined. The regenerative properties we discovered were being successfully tested in treatments for conditions we hadn't even considered initially. The hospital board not only reinstated my privileges but offered me my own research department. I declined politely. The private facility had become home, and my team there had earned my loyalty. Rebecca eventually left Johns Hopkins, taking a position at a smaller research facility on the West Coast. She never apologized, but she did send me an email. "You won. But you also found something I couldn't. Maybe that's what I was really afraid of all along." I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, shouldn't be rebuilt. 1 year after the hearing that nearly ended my career, I stood in a different kind of meeting room. Instead of facing accusations, I was presenting our latest results to a group of patients and their families. a young girl with a rare genetic disorder, the kind I'd originally been trying to treat. Raised her hand. Dr. Chen, does this mean you can help people like me? I smiled, thinking of all the twists and turns that had led to this moment. Yes, I said. But you know what? You helped me too. Sometimes the best discoveries come when we're forced to look at things differently. After the presentation, James found me in my office. You never told them about Rebecca, he noted. I shook my head, looking at the framed copy of our first published paper hanging on the wall. Because this isn't about her anymore. It's about the work, about the people we can help. And about the sister who tried to destroy your career, but accidentally helped you change the world. I laughed. Something like that. That evening, as I reviewed new trial data, I found myself thinking about patterns in research in relationships in life. Rebecca had tried to erase my work, but in doing so, she had forced me to look more closely to see what I had missed before. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to our greatest discoveries. Sometimes losing everything shows us what we're really capable of building. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about proving someone wrong. It's about proving yourself right in ways they never imagined possible.